Hello guys, and welcome back to Digital Assets Daily. I wanted to do our first video on Codius because I believe Codius will have a big impact on Xrp's success and pricing. So let's dive right in. Codius. Today we release the first prototype and source code for Codius, the smart contracts implementation centered around the concept of smart oracles. Check out the white paper if you missed it. Codius is open source and everything is available on GitHub. Right now the prototype and contracts are written in JavaScript, but very soon you'll be able to code smart contracts in any programming language. This initial release includes a basic version of a host, a test sandbox, and a few examples of what you can do inside the sandbox, which, as we're continuing to discover, is quite a lot. We've got a first example Bitcoin contract that uses Bitcoin.js to sign transactions using the contract's unique public-private key pair. This lays the groundwork for implementing all kinds of complex logic on top of Bitcoin, Ripple, and other cryptocurrency wallets. We're also porting Express.js into the sandbox so that you can have a contract that even acts as a web server. This means that you'll be able to serve up entire web pages using Codius, which opens the door for building full-fledged services with smart contracts. And that's also where you come in. We're actively looking for developers to help contribute to the open source project. To get involved in the community, check out the forum and the chat room on Getter. The full release details. Codius Engine is the system responsible for executing contract code. Codius Host is the smart Oracle software that allows users to upload code, get unique tokens for their contract, and in the near future will handle billing. Codius CLI, the command line interface for interacting with the engine. Node Sandbox, the pure JavaScript sandbox we're using while we work on getting Google's native client integrated. Example, Hello World, a simple Hello World contract. Example, Require, a sample contract demonstrating how Require works inside the sandbox. Example, Bitcoin, a sample Bitcoin contract that demonstrates how Bitcoin.js can be used inside the sandbox. Example, Web Server, a sample contract demonstrating running a simple web server inside a contract. Smart contracts will never be the same as Ripple XRP revives Codius. Back in late April, again this is from June 6, 2018, the dates will go from oldest to current. Back in late April, Ethereum World News had highlighted that the cryptoverse was in need of the then discontinued Codius smart contract platform by Ripple. The platform had been discontinued in 2015 due to the presence of a small market for the product back then, and the lack of a standard for payments on the smart contract ecosystem. Each blockchain had its own standards, and communication between two different ones was unheard of until the introduction of Interledger not too long ago. Interledger is an open protocol suite for sending payments across different ledgers, like routers on the internet. Connectors route packets of money across like routers on the internet. Connectors route packages of money across independent payment networks. The open architecture and minimal protocol enable interoperability for any value transfer system. Interledger is not tied to any one company, blockchain, or currency. Another problem that made Codius unable to launch back then was that running smart contracts does indeed cost money, and the team at Ripple did not have a neutral way to pay the Codius hosts. This problem was solved by creating an abstract layer that would allow users to send and receive any digital asset, fiat currency, or any other kind of value. This abstract layer would later become the aforementioned Interledger that is now 100% fit for use. With Interledger available, a new version of Codius is now available for download on GitHub. Since it is an open source platform, the team at Ripple made the announcement via Medium earlier today. Many developers had reached out to the team at Ripple with the challenges they faced while using the Ethereum platform, such as high transaction fees, high latency, convoluted programming model, and lack of scalability. Codius solves these issues by making it possible to program using traditional programming languages of C++, Java, JavaScript, C#, and so on. Josh Williams, a serial entrepreneur and investor in the gaming space, Unity, Zynga, Kabam, was asked by the team at Ripple to explain his excitement about Codius, and he had this to say. Its powerful, scalable, decentralized computing and smart contracts interfacing with distributed ledgers are essential for every industry hoping to utilize blockchains, and the need is particularly acute for highly interactive, real-time, mass-market experiences like games. Teams in games and elsewhere are building on Ethereum and running into the cost and scalability issues we're all familiar with. Codius has great potential in addressing these concerns, and we are eager to work with it. Codius will make blockchain technology more mainstream by solving the challenge of interoperability of blockchains. With Codius and Interledger, blockchains will be able to communicate and transfer funds between them in a frictionless manner. It is with the above statement that it is safe to conclude that smart contracts will never be the same again with Codius. Returning into the arena of smart contracts, current heavyweights and new entries in the arena of smart contracts include Ethereum, Stellar, Tron, EOS, VeChain, Zilliqa, just to name a few. Ripple Vet launches Codius, an easy-to-use smart contract tool. Smart contracts are much hyped new technology that promise to automate all sorts of transactions, everything from sports wagers to insurance payments to copyright claims. There's just one catch. Few people are able to use them. Despite being around since 2014, smart contracts have existed mostly in theory. While there are many working examples, especially on the blockchain platform, Ethereum, their technological complexity, has kept them out of the mainstream. Stefan Thomas, the longtime CTO of the cryptocurrency company Ripple, hopes to change that. On Wednesday, Thomas's new company Coil announced a product that will make it easy to write and deploy smart contracts at low cost. The product is called Codius, and Thomas describes it as an operating system for the blockchain. Codius is an open-source hosting platform available for anyone who wants a secure platform to build or host a smart contract. Thomas told Fortune, in the same way that cloud computing made web hosting more accessible, Codius will make experimentation on the blockchain more widely available because people won't need to build from scratch. In an interview with Fortune, Thomas claimed the current smart contract are impractical because they require developers to learn new and esoteric programming languages. He also noted the most popular smart contract platform, Ethereum, is currently ill-equipped to operate at scale, and that it can cost users $1 or more to execute a single contract. Thomas added that existing smart contract architecture lacks an easy way to integrate external data sources, such as maps or weather reports. This makes it hard to build practical applications, but with Codius, Thomas says developers can use common programming languages like Java or C++ to tap all sorts of data. This open-source platform allows smart contracts to be written in any popular programming language, and it lowers the operating cost by several orders of magnitude compared to Ethereum. It will reduce the barriers to entry for many and opens the possibility of decentralized mainstream applications built using blockchain, notes a blog post. For practical purposes, this means it will become possible to create smart contracts that tap into third-party information sources, such as the Weather Channel or Yahoo Finance, in the same way that mobile apps do. Thomas also notes that users will be able to use regular web browsers to access and deploy smart contracts instead of specialty software like Coinbase's Toshi. All of this may sound ambitious, but Thomas's pedigree means he may pull it off. At Ripple, he was the primary creator of the Interledger, a tool that brings different banking protocols. And in 2014, he published an early white paper about smart contracts. The white paper was based in part on conversations he had with Vitalik Buterin, a young developer who crashed on his couch for several weeks in 2013. Today, Buterin is famous for creating and building out Ethereum and its smart contract platform. Thomas told Fortune he has high regard for Buterin and the two are on good terms, but added that Ethereum has so far been unable to realize the promise of smart contracts. At its launch, Codius has two early users, Talendis, a large IT company in Luxembourg, and Wietse Wind, a developer of open-source software tools based in the Netherlands. While Thomas's new venture is formally spun off from Ripple, it will rely on some of his former company's architecture. Notably, Codius uses Ripple's Interledger as a payment mechanism, which could deliver a boost to Ripple if the new smart contracts platform catches on. Ripple Smart Contracts Creator targets Ethereum with new tech launch. Ripple's former CTO, Stefan Thomas, is going up against Ethereum with the launch of a new smart contracts platform. Some of these almost seem repetitive, but I believe just a little bit of different information each is important to share. While new isn't quite right, the platform Thomas released implementations for today is Codius, an open source project that Ripple released in beta in 2014 but shelved the following year. Now, though, having announced his departure from Ripple in May, Thomas is relaunching Codius as the technical backbone for his new company, Coil. Using Codius, Coil aims to change the way websites monetize their content. According to Thomas, monetizing web content has so far relied on clunky workarounds like ads, paywalls, and other user data harvesting. Think of Facebook's recent debacle. But his new project, by using Interledger, an open source protocol that was developed inside Ripple for sending payments across different ledgers, plans to allow browsers to make micropayments to websites they visit. Codius could enable use cases such as a revenue disbursement contract, which could take in revenue as people watch a movie and pay that money out to all parties that made the movie, and not in batch payments, but little by little. Or a Codius smart contract could help news outlets and their readers interact, and that it could manage readers' authorizations and subscriptions and act as a sort of switching board for your money, Thomas said. The implementation released today comes with tutorials for uploading and hosting. Codius smart contracts, uploaders pay hosts to run smart contracts on their computers, to try and push developers to start using the platform right away. And already several developers have disclosed they'll be building on the platform, as revealed exclusively to CoinDesk. Talendis, an Luxembourg-based IT solutions subsidiary of the state-owned Belgian telecom Proximus Group, will use Codius to push forward novel direct e-commerce models. Talendis chief architect Thomas Scherer told CoinDesk. Josh Williams, who was previously invested in well-known game platforms Unity, Zynga, and Kabam, said he'll be using Codius in new ventures, including a gaming company that is currently in stealth. Williams told CoinDesk, teams in games and elsewhere are building on Ethereum and running into the cost and scalability issues we're all familiar with. Codius has great potential in addressing these concerns, and we are eager to work with it. Thomas echoed that sentiment, saying that as Ethereum has demonstrated the viability of smart contract use cases, it has simultaneously shown the world its own vulnerabilities, as Ethereum-based applications continue to run into scaling difficulties. In contrast to Ethereum, Codius was designed to allow developers to write smart contract code in any programming language and have the smart contracts work as smart oracles, communicating with outside data sources. As such, Thomas said, Codius has an opening. The people that are reaching out to us are saying, hey, we're experimenting on Ethereum. We're running into scalability issues. It's too expensive, too slow. It's not flexible enough. We don't like writing in this awkward language, he said. What's changed? So why did Ripple set Codius aside? While Codius generated its share of buzz in early 2015 before Ethereum's mainnet was live, according to Thomas, the idea seemed premature. Ripple engineers touted the platform as a model for interoperability at the time, saying it was able to handle not just XRP, the cryptocurrency most closely associated with Ripple, but Bitcoin, Ether, and fiat currencies. But the project hit snags, however. Adding smart contracts opened up new ways to attack the ledger, and the technical architecture was cumbersome. Speaking in 2015, Thomas said that building smart contracts into a blockchain was like writing software directly into a database. Difficult. The team realized, Thomas told CoinDesk in a recent interview, that computer science had solved that problem in the 1970s by developing a three-tier architecture in which a logic layer sits between the database and user interface layers. Codius would serve as that middle layer, Thomas said, adding, you would have a bit of code that's assessing some assets on XRP ledger. That's assessing some data that's in Ethereum, and maybe it's making an HTTP call, and so you have a much more flexible architecture. And most importantly, you can have those kinds of contracts call other contracts as well. But building that kind of platform required efficient communication between ledgers, something that wasn't available at the time. And so Ripple began developing the open source interledger protocol, also known as the ILP, to allow for this communication. Plus, Thomas said, we just didn't feel like smart contracts was a very mature industry at that point. Frankly, the use cases seemed somewhat dubious in value. As such, Codius was shelved, but now, 3 years later, Thomas doubts the value of such a smart contract platform have disappeared. Rather, he sees Ethereum's scaling issues, expensive transactions, and slow confirmation times as signs that smart contracts are ready to move away with the mainframes. Move away from Ethereum and go over to a more flexible architecture that involves multiple different ledgers. Ethereum killer ? Oh, I guess my phone woke up to that. My apologies. Codius, though, is hardly the only would-be Ethereum killer to emerge over the past couple years. All of these projects like Codius tout the ability to process faster and cheaper transactions, but there's typically a trade-off involved. Either in terms of security or blockchains defining benefit decentralization. EOS, for instance, a delegated proof-of-stake cryptocurrency project, which is currently in the midst of launching on mainnet, promises faster, cheaper transactions because of the blockchain only needs to be verified by 21 validator nodes, not by the whole distributed community of miners as in Ethereum and Bitcoin. Thomas, though, argues that Codius design enables developers to balance their own priorities, rather than having to accept the network's compromises as a given. You can choose the level of decentralization, Thomas told CoinDesk, if you upload it to 4 or 5 hosts. You'll have a decentralization level that's similar to Ethereum, and you'll have a cost that's still orders of magnitude lower. Or you can upload it to 100 hosts, and you'll have a much greater level of decentralization than you get with Ethereum. As it relates to security, Thomas argues, Codius has several advantages over Ethereum and other smart contract blockchains. For one, the network is built on Hypercontainer, an open source project that uses Docker containers to isolate a given contract's code and minimizes vulnerabilities to attack. And secondly, Codius developers aren't locked into a nascent programming language like Solidity, which they're unlikely to know as well as JavaScript, for example. I think that a lot of the issues and compromises, big hacks, and so on have been directly related to the fact that these are all new languages whose security's not very well understood, said Thomas. As for price, Thomas contrasts Ethereum's transaction costs, which can exceed 60 cents and even $1, with those of Amazon Web Services' Lambda platform, which costs 20 cents per million requests. AWS is centralized, but Thomas still expects Codius costs to fall between those two extremes. For Thomas, rolling out Codius is the first step towards building a standard protocol for monetizing web content, as well as the ecosystem around it. Eventually, Thomas believes firms might decide to host websites on Codius rather than AWS, with Coil serving as a kind of Spotify, but in an open way. A protocol connecting consumers, internet service providers, websites, and content creators. And while the code is still rough, Thomas remains optimistic that Codius will prove a step forward for developers writing smart contracts that solve problems for today's businesses. He concluded, from a cost, scalability, and security standpoint, as well as the flexibility, it's orders of magnitude more viable for mainstream use cases. Okay, now the major question is, will Ripple's Codius smart contract increase the price of XRP? The crypto market is experiencing a new phenomenon with the introduction of the Codius smart contract platform by Ripple. This platform is responsible for a significant amount of excitement among crypto fans, according to Stefan Thomas, former Ripple's CTO. The Codius smart contract platform aims to create seamless cooperation between different blockchains. Therefore, the new platform continues to search for new ways of monetizing the web using the smart contract techniques and DLT. Codius plans to complete an overhaul of traditional exchange methods. Codius will rejuvenate XRP. At the beginning of 2018, when the cryptocurrency market reached its peak, XRP emerged as a popular choice for crypto investment enthusiasts. In addition, a huge influx of investors and a sudden increase in the popularity of the XRP increased the value of the crypto to an all-time high of $3.81. And I believe that's the highest I've seen it, maybe $3.84 in others. But each exchange will have its slight variation. But nonetheless, the upward trend was short-lived because XRP lost nearly 80% of its value. However, currently with the arrival of the Codius platform, the value of XRP will rise exponentially when even reaching double digits. The new trend presents a simple and innovative way of using the Codius contract platform to incorporate liquidity into XRP. SBI Currency's directional shift. The cryptocurrency experts believe that the launch of the digital exchange SBI VC, or virtual currencies, presents a new dimension in the cryptocurrency world. The main reason behind this is that the trading platform largely focuses on XRP. In addition, the outcome originates from a 2-year partnership between SBI Holdings and Ripple Labs. According to the CEO of SBI Virtual Currencies, XRP might hit the $10 mark. Yoshitaka Katao notes that with the rise in the use of cryptocurrencies, the price of the XRP will continue to rise. Similarly, the new Codius platform will facilitate this climb of the Ripple coin. Next is the adoption of Ripple products to begin in the next quarter. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse indicated that the future growth of the firm is largely bullish and that the partnerships made with global banking firms will take effect in 2019. These global partnerships will see the utilization of Ripple products in cross-border payments. This features the most crucial aspect of movement from a regular cryptocurrency exchange to modern transfers such as Xrp. Xrp is a product from Ripple Labs that uses the XRP token when moving cryptocurrency across borders. In conclusion, the XRP price is likely to hit the $10 mark, although it will require a high level of cooperation. In fact, the introduction of Codius presents a new avenue for both existing and new users in moving cryptocurrency. Codius smart contracts made from containers. What are smart contracts is the question. Smart contracts have generated a lot of buzz, yet you've probably never encountered one of them in your day-to-day. It seems that no important real-world products use them. And why? You might say, they're too new. But for those of us who have been in the blockchain space for a while, this argument isn't compelling. I was working on smart contracts in 2013, the same year Docker was released. But smart contracts are still regulated to experiments, while Docker and other projects inspired by it run everything, including this very website. My hypotheses for why smart contracts haven't entered the mainstream is that the architecture hasn't been flexible enough to deal with the complexity of real-world use cases. Ethereum is an excellent proof of concept, but it's difficult to integrate with other systems, even forks of Ethereum. And without robust integrations, it's impossible to build anything more than a proof of concept. A brief history of blockchain smart contracts, and let's go back to the beginning to better understand where the current architecture comes from. Bitcoin was released as an integrated payment system that pioneered the blockchain concept, including a minimalistic scripting language for smart contracts. After Bitcoin, the technology got its first major upgrade in the form of Xrp Ledger, which was the first blockchain to be built on a general-purpose key-value map, making it closer to a general-purpose database than just a payment system. I joined Ripple in 2012, and one of my first projects was to build a smart contract system for Xrp Ledger. By April 2013, I had an architecture and a prototype. It was a sandboxed execution environment called Ripple VM, which used Google's native client to securely run contracts directly in Ripple, together with the generic key value stored provided by Ripple. This seemed like a promising approach at the time. Later in 2013, a young Bitcoin developer crashed on my couch for a few weeks while visiting San Francisco. In the afternoon, he would come to the Ripple office and join our discussions about smart contracts. His name was Vitalik Buterin, and these conversations led him to incorporate Ripple's key value data structure into Ethereum. People often ask why we didn't release our prototype, preempting Ethereum and potentially attracting developers to Xrp instead. At the time, we underestimated the amount of interest there would be in smart contracts. Moreover, building this architecture seemed daunting. Hats off to Vitalik and his friends for attracting a community large enough and fervent enough to pull it off. Codius works differently than smart contracts in Bitcoin or Ethereum, a better architecture. However, there was another reason we didn't pursue this project. By the end of 2013, Evan Schwartz and I had come up with a new design for smart contracts. This became the Codius project, with a white paper released in 2014. Codius works differently than smart contracts in Bitcoin or Ethereum. The contracts run on independently hosts without an underlying blockchain, similar to traditional hosting. This allows them to interact with any service or API, scale indefinitely, and read from or write to any blockchain. The key challenge of smart contracts, interoperability, was solved. There was only one problem. Running contracts cost money, and we didn't have a neutral way to pay Codius host. Another benefit of Codius is that it gives the choice of programming language back to the user. Rather than having to write software in strange special-purpose languages like Solidity, developers can write contracts using any common language, including C++, Java, JavaScript, Cpound, and so on. This massively lowers the barrier to entry and makes smart contracts available to much wider audience. There was only one problem. Running contracts cost money, and we didn't have a neutral way to pay Codius host. Picking any single-digit asset would have pigeonholed the platform, likely causing it to be shunned by all other communities. The solution was an abstraction layer that allows users to send and receive any digital asset, fiat currency, or any other kind of value. This is what eventually became Interledger, the open protocol for sending payments across different ledgers. Now that Interledger is completed, we are releasing a new version of Codius. Virtualization technology has progressed a lot since 2014. So this new language is able to run standard containers written in any programming language securely with hardware-enforced virtualization, and the timing couldn't be better. Many smart contract developers have been reaching out to us over the past few months because they are running into Ethereum's high transaction fees, high latency, convoluted programming model, and lack of scalability. While searching for a solution, they found the Codius white paper and got in touch. How will Codius be used is the question. We founded Coil to build a new business model for the web and created Codius as a tool to help us do it. We are releasing it as open source because we believe it will be useful for many other companies besides our own. It is the most practical smart contracts platform released to date. I asked Josh Williams, a serial entrepreneur and investor in the gaming space, Unity, Zynga, and Kabam, to help us explain why he's excited about Codius, and he wrote, "Powerful, scalable, decentralized computing and smart contracts interfacing with distributed ledgers are essential for every industry hoping to utilize blockchains, and the need is particularly acute for highly interactive, real-time, mass-market experiences like games. Teams in games and elsewhere are building on Ethereum and running into the cost and scalability issues we're all familiar with. Codius has great potential in addressing these concerns, and we are eager to work with it." Within the blockchain community, Codius can help make blockchain more mainstream. Another developer, We'd Say When, plans to use it to create open source tools for the XRP community. After 14 years of running my company serving mid-sized and some large customers with software system integration, mostly HR and financial systems, I am disappointed in the inefficiency and lack of transparency of existing smart contracts solutions. I am excited to develop on Codius, as I expect it will allow users to authorize a Codius application to sign transactions on the behalf of users. The Codius app will allow users to set fine-grained permissions and limits without having to expose the user's private key to the Codius infrastructure or the Codius application developer. This will allow developers to create a new breed of tools without compromising on security. Tools that can bridge the gap between the XRP ledger and external systems, events, triggers, and data. This could have an important impact on social developments and practical problems. Codius could even be used in the enterprise space by companies like Telindus, the ICT arm of Belgian telco Belgacom. Codius will push forward novel direct e-commerce models which do not require intermediary services such as online payment services, advertisement services, or similar centralized concepts, says Thomas Scherer, the chief architect at Telindus. Despite the increased functionality, running software on Codius will be cheaper than on-chain on a system like Ethereum. This is because different hosts compete with one another on price, and the uploader controls the level of decentralization. A Codius contract can run on unlimited number of hosts, giving it greater decentralization than any existing blockchain could offer. Or it could run on a single host. Each developer can choose the right trade-off between cost and security for their application. How can you use Codius today? Codius is an open source, and the code is up on GitHub. If you are a developer and would like to try Codius for yourself, the good news is that it's incredibly easy to get started. There's a tutorial on creating your first contract. And did you miss the chance to mine Bitcoin back in 2009? Try running a Codius host and get paid through Interledger when users upload contracts. The tutorial running a Codius host. If you run into any issues, please visit our Gitter chat and let us know. We'll do our best to provide support and fix any issues as they crop up. We're planning to write more tutorials as we go. And looking to the future, we realize that in order to be a true alternative, Codius needs to provide easy-to-use modules for achieving consensus and great tooling. We plan to build the consensus part ourselves and we're hoping you'll be inspired by the flexibility of the platform and come up with some great projects. Wired recently predicted that blockchain will rebuild the internet as we know it, and while people are right to be skeptical, one comment struck a chord. Once blockchain technologies mature, they will recede into the background to become one of the fundamental systems powering the internet. We are only the beginning. We launched Coil last month to build the web we want. And with Codius, we are taking the first steps towards providing infrastructure and built-in monetization. Stefan Thomas, Codius to prime the Ripple XRP ecosystem. And we're going to go right to that point. Ripple apparently delayed releasing their smart contract system because they discovered the Codius project that would further enhance smart contracts. The Ripple smart contracting system Codius addressed the problem of interoperability among smart contracts. Additionally, it allows its users to utilize simple programming languages such as JavaScript, Java, C++, or C#. Consequently, Codius will significantly lower the costs will lower the smart contract creation barrier. Unfortunately, back then, the innovation did lack a neutral method for paying for its cost. However, with Ripple's Interledger, ILP, technology completed, this is no longer a hindrance. A new version of Codius was therefore released and is even more versatile in the use of programming languages. The supercharged platform promises better prospects for developers than Ethereum smart contracts. It has lesser transaction costs than Ethereum's model, which is also plagued by high latency, lack of scalability, and a convoluted programming model. So Codius, I also believe it will have a huge impact on the XRP pricing, as we're now seeing the ODL bundles being transferred between the corridors. So we'll be patient. If you are an XRP investor, I think that, in my opinion, Codius will have a huge impact, and I think it's something that's not really discussed too often. Maybe it's understood, or maybe people are unaware of what it actually does and how it's helping the community and helping the system, how it's basically transforming the world. Again, this is not financial advice. It is for entertainment purposes only. This is just an informative update on what Codius is. I believe the dates in this articles range from 2012 to current. I hope you're having a great day, and we will catch you in the next one.